The U.S. government and Wall Street banks have spent 6 years printing trillions of U.S. dollars out of thin air and flooding the world market with paper money backed by nothing more than the benefit of stability and the threat of our U.S. military. Now, based on that very example from our history, Americans should be using wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread for $10,000. Now, that hadn't happened yet. But unfortunately for the American people, China and Russia have been taking some major steps to ensure that happens, and it happens very soon. One reason the US dollar still has any value at all is because it's used by countries around the world as the global reserve currency. So unlike most national currencies, the US dollar has always been dependable, and more importantly, it's been circulated in every nation on Earth. So when one country wants to do a deal with another country, they typically use the US dollars because every nation has them and uses them. The dollar doesn't typically fluctuate in value, and it shouldn't go insolvent anytime soon. Well, that is, until now. The world has been watching the way that America's Democratic and Republican leaders continually prop up the US dollar and the US economy, hoping to prevent its total collapse just a little bit longer. But the truth is, unless every man, woman, and child in America can come up with about $500,000 to repay the world all the money we owe them, the United States is seriously on the verge of the biggest debt default in mankind's history. And the American people can't even make it from paycheck to paycheck. Most of them, much less, come up with an average $1.5 million per family. And here's just a few signs of what may be coming and things to keep an eye on. But China and Russia have decided to start using their own currencies when trading with each other, so they've cut America completely out of the deal. And did you know that Brazil is conducting more trade with China than anyone else? Also, did you know that Australia conducts more trade with China than anyone else? According to Reuters, India and Japan have also agreed to a very large currency swap deal. And Iran is selling lots of oil. They just aren't exchanging that oil for US dollars as much these days. And according to Bloomberg, Iran and Russia have decided to discard the US dollar and use their own currencies when trading with each other. China and Chile recently signed a new agreement that will dramatically expand trade between the two nations, and it's also likely to lead to a significant currency swap between the two countries. According to CNN, China and the United Arab Emirates recently agreed to a very large currency swap deal as well. Did you know that China is now Africa's biggest trading partner? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa continue to become a larger factor in the global economy, dwarfing America. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that the days of the US dollar are definitely numbered. And why is this important? Well, just a few things to consider. I mean, if the petrodollar actually dies, you're going to see oil costs shoot through the roof. In fact, everything is going to cost more. So what happens if the petrodollar dies? What is it going to look like? Well, just a few things to keep in mind. I mean, first and foremost, the cost of oil is going to shoot right through the roof, so all your gas prices are going to go way up. Another thing to consider is that everything is going to cost a lot more. There's also going to be a lot less foreign demand for the U.S. government debt. And the interest rates on all this U.S. government debt is going to shoot straight through the roof. Also, interest rates on just about everything in the U.S. economy is going to rise. And that's just for starters. Chances are that scenes like this are going to become everyday all across America. In fact, it's really interesting. It's one thing I discovered when I was kind of researching this subject here, but you can go to any search engine on the internet and type in dollar collapse 2014, and you're going to get tons and tons and tons of pages of people predicting that it was all going to go down in 2014. And of course, we're in 2015 now, and it never happened. Now, my point of telling you that is this. As far as I'm concerned, the only reason any of this stuff hasn't happened yet is all by the grace of God. Because when and or if all this stuff goes down, it's going to completely and totally change not just the face of America, but the face of the world. And I believe that all this stuff is being done to eventually force us into this RFID technology, or what a lot of people call the mark of the beast. Now, if it was just like a little card you carried or maybe a bracelet or something, sure, maybe, right? And that's probably going to be kind of the way they pull us into the system. But ultimately, they want everybody tagged like cattle. And this is all biblical prophecy. And whether you believe in this stuff or not, it's happening and unfolding right before our eyes. So, what do? I think you got a choice. I'm choosing to rely on the spiritual side of these things. I choose to pray. I choose to have faith. I choose to have hope. And I know that however bad things may get, that God will be there and God will help. Or you can lock and load and hope for the best. It's my belief that we're going to be seeing a lot more of this. You're going to see a lot more communal living if we actually hit this. You're going to see more neighborhoods pulling together, people pulling together and trying to help each other out. Because if this stuff goes down and it really does get this crazy, this is where you'll see families turning against families, friends against friends, etc. It's going to be crazy. So it's going to be a time where you're going to see the good people really pulling together and trying to stick it out, and you're going to see the people who are going to follow the system fighting against them. Which brings me to this really interesting clip from the movie Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, just came out within the last year. And you're going to see in this clip they're talking about exactly what's happening right now. And we see this happen time and time again. It doesn't happen always, but oftentimes we'll see the plans of the New World Order, the plans of the global elite, the plans of the Illuminati playing out in movies and TV shows and whatnot. So check this clip out.
It should be going down, but it's up. A few cents every day the past week. I think they're propping us up. Why? I think there's a coordinated plot within Russia to collapse the dollar and crash the U.S. economy. And it's going to happen soon. It'll be time to follow a terrorist attack on U.S. soil.
No, that'd be crazy. The Russians would lose as much as anybody in a collapse.
No, the Chinese will lose more. And once the Russians start to sell, the rest of the world is going to dump every dollar they have.
All right, let's say it's happening. Let's say you're right. What's the aftermath?
They'll recover. We won't. We don't have their oil reserves. We're looking at the panic of 1837, the panic of 1893, the Soviet famine of 1932.
Hyperinflation.
Bread mines. Rioting.
I know, I get it.
And at first, though, they'll call it the American crisis, but in about 6 weeks, they're going to start calling it what it is. The Second Great Depression.
Hey, thanks for watching.